expensive to test for it, and the commission is not going to pay that kind of money. And it's still very random, you know what I mean? Like, I wish they would just test everybody. Why, like, instead of doing this random thing where, hey, you might get picked and you may have to do the piss test, it's like, make it a requirement for, we all have to submit physicals and blood work before every fight. Before every fight, we have to do that. And once a year, we have to do ophthalmological exams, eye exams, the dilated eye exams. So why don't we have, instead of just HIV and hepatitis, why don't we have anabolic steroids? Why don't we do tests for the levels and all that stuff every time? Why? Is because it's too expensive and people are pinching pennies, and that's what the commission's doing. That's the way I look at it, and it's like, test everybody. Yeah.
What percentage you guys are using?
Okay, this may be a shot in the dark, but I have, a lot of access. I mean, I know all these people, and I know of them, and I train with them, and I deal with them. I would say at least 60% are on them all the time, and I'd say up to 85 or 90% total have at least done them at some point or tried them.
Now, how are they on them all the time, and then they pass tests?
Well, these guys cycle the stuff. They take it, and then they know how long it's going to take for it to get out of their body. And when I said that 60 and 90% thing that I just thought of in my head, that was my estimation, I'm also talking about HGH, human growth hormone, which isn't something that is tested for right now, just because it's hard to test for it.
Or just shut up about it and leave it alone.
Let me ask you,
I just hate seeing them go after the old guys.
You've used that government argument a long time, but I guess, any drug testing expert always says the state testing is the easiest testing to beat. Anybody who's cheating, Victor Conte says you have to be a moron to fail that test. So how do you...
Fuck Victor Conte.
Well,
the guy's a lying, two-faced piece of shit. I can't stand that guy. You're the biggest cheater in the history of the fucking sports world, and now because you can't make a living cheating anymore, you want to flip the other side and start calling people out and pointing fingers? I can't believe anybody even listens to this guy, anybody even quotes this guy. Victor Conte is a two-faced piece of shit.
Well, have you heard his position, though, why he
I don't care what his position is.
That's not fair.
I don't care about him. He's a fucking cheater
and a liar.
Not the only one that says
now
that, he's trying to flip the script so that he can make a living on the other side.
No,
he's a scumbag.
Well, then let's bring some other people up into it. Then
bring somebody credible. Get somebody credible in there that you would listen to. I don't know anybody else other than a guy who got caught for fucking cheating and giving all these guys steroids.
Well, Dr. Goodman then is, she has a company doing that. I mean,
right.
So I guess the argument is,
so what are we talking about? Are we talking about fighting, or are we talking about baseball and football?
So I guess my argument to you is you're saying.
So they say the government isn't strong enough. They're not this. They're not that.
They don't have the money to do the real testing.
We're regulated by the fucking government. Right. Some of these places, some of these states we go to, they test the entire card. Some places are random. Some places does the main event and a few other fights that are random. It's better than anybody else's.
Well, I don't want to ruin everybody else's interview, but I guess the question that I'm asking you is the state testing is, any expert would say, is the worst and easiest to beat by people. They don't do carbon isotope ratio testing and all sorts of things. So you're not really finding out because they don't have the budget. So
but it's better. But it's better in baseball or football or.
Yeah, because they do CIR testing.
Oh my God.
It is.
Oh my God. You think they randomly test? You think they're going to test some of their big star players?
It's in their CBA.
That's craziness. Yeah, I mean, if that's
what. Well, Ryan Braun tested positive.
But if that's what people want to believe, and if they really went in there and did real testing, you know what I mean? If the governments can't afford to test, how can they not afford to test? We fight here, however many times a year. Floyd, Pacquiao, and a lot of other big stars fight here every year, and this city makes a lot of money off that.
Right, I agree.
And they don't use it to fund the commission, though. They turn it over to the state.
Then that's what they need to do. Well,
interesting. So these different various drugs, some of them are still not illegal. Is that correct? Isn't EPO still, they don't test for it in certain places?
State commissions don't test for it.
Right.
See, that's my big argument about what these state commissions are doing is they don't test for EPO.
Yeah, I read that and I'm like, I heard
they don't test for
that's a crazy thing.
For growth hormone. They don't test for synthetic testosterone. So when you say, wow, these guys are getting busted, all the time, could you imagine if they had effective testing, what would be going on?
So these guys are getting busted because they're dumb. Is that what it is? They're doing something dumb. They're not talking to a guy, a knowledgeable guy that could sort of read their blood work and tell them beforehand whether or not they're taking the right amount of time off of it. Is that what it is?
Let's talk about a specific case to illustrate what you just said.
Okay.
Lamont Peterson, the boxer that tested positive for synthetic testosterone.
Yes.
You
work with him, correct?
No.
You don't?
No. But VADA, the group that does testing, is the one that busted him for synthetic testosterone. But here's what happened. He went to a doctor in Las Vegas, and his total testosterone was 563, perfectly normal. Low end of the range is, depending upon lab, it varies lab to lab, at like 250 to 300. So he's at 563, perfectly normal. They found his free testosterone, the active portion that binds to the androgen receptor, was a little bit low. Well, that could have been, he was overtrained and all he needed was a few days of rest. But this doctor told him, let's just put this testosterone pellet in you. So they made a little surgical incision, inserted a pellet. This pellet time releases about 7 milligrams a day, which is about your body's normal production. And you don't even need a stitch. They just put a little butterfly over it. So he fights Amir Khan for the world title, and they test him, and he's negative. Now, in Nevada, in New York, in Washington, D.C., they used a 6-to-1 TE ratio. So he was well below that. There was no issues. As soon as he enrolled in the VADA testing, where this is what they do that's different than other testing associations, is every single sample they use this CIR, carbon isotope ratio testing, which can differentiate between endogenous production and exogenous testosterone, whether it be patch, cream, clear, injection, okay? So his TE ratio came back at 3.77 to 1. Well, even the highest Olympic standard is 4 to 1. He's negative, right? But if you use this more sophisticated technology, he came back and they identified that he had synthetic testosterone in his system. And of course, later it came out, oh, by the way, I've got this pellet in my butt, and here's the reason. Now, I was told by somebody that I know that referred him to a doctor.
It has to be a doctor.
That said, don't be surprised if there's 100 boxers out there that have these pellets in their butt.
Well, this pellet thing is a new thing. I just heard about this.
Tester pellet.
Yeah, the first time I heard about it was a couple of months ago, and I thought someone was joking with me. They inserted